What if the pain you've been desperately trying to escape is not your punishment, but your portal? What if everything that broke you, the relationship that ended without warning, the dream that collapsed, the person you trusted who walked away like you meant nothing, what if all of it was not a sign that you are unlucky, unworthy, or cursed, but a sign that you are being redirected towards something so much bigger than the life you were settling for? What if your tears are not weakness, but evidence that you are human enough to feel, brave enough to break, and strong enough to rebuild? Right now, in this very moment, there are wounds inside you that have been waiting, not for more time, not for a distraction, not for someone else to come and save you, but for your permission to finally be felt, finally be healed, and finally be released. What if today is the day you stop running? What if today is the day you look at everything that shattered you and say, "You did not break me, you built me"? Stay with me, because what I am about to share with you will not just change how you think about pain, it will change how you live. What if the most revolutionary act of your life is not achieving something extraordinary, but simply allowing yourself to feel? We live in a world that glorifies speed. Move fast. Bounce back faster. Post the comeback story before you've even finished crying. We have turned healing into a performance, and grief into something we schedule between meetings and apologize for in public. We have become so terrified of our own pain that we will do anything, scroll endlessly, overwork ourselves, chase meaningless distractions, numb ourselves with substances, relationships, and noise, anything to avoid sitting alone in the quiet with what actually hurts. And I need to ask you something important today. How is that working for you? Because here is what I know about avoided pain. It does not wait patiently for you to be ready. It does not simply dissolve because you refuse to acknowledge it. Avoided pain transforms. It becomes the anger you take out on people who don't deserve it. It becomes the walls you build around your heart that keep out not just the people who hurt you, but every single person who genuinely wants to love you. It becomes the anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m. with no explanation. It becomes the exhaustion that lives in your bones even when you've slept for 8 hours. It becomes the sadness you can't name because you never gave it a name when it first arrived. Pain that is not metabolized becomes us. And the first and most terrifying truth about moving on is this: you cannot skip the hurting. You cannot outsmart it, outrun it, or outlast it by pretending it doesn't exist. If you want to heal, and I mean genuinely heal, not just perform healing for the world to see, you have to let it hurt first. This is not a weakness. This is not a breakdown. This is not evidence that you are falling apart. This is biology. This is courage. This is what it looks like to be a fully alive human being who chose to feel rather than disappear. The bravest people I have ever encountered in my research are not the ones who never cried. They are the ones who cried fully, who let the grief move through their entire body without apologizing for it, without rushing it, without performing strength for an audience that was never even watching. They are the people who sat in the darkness long enough to realize that the darkness was not going to kill them, and that realization is where power is born. Now, let me tell you something about vulnerability that will perhaps feel deeply uncomfortable. Vulnerability is not a character flaw. It is not immaturity. It is not something to be ashamed of or hidden from the people you trust. Vulnerability is the birthplace of every meaningful connection, every creative breakthrough, every act of genuine courage you have ever witnessed in your life. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, truly, completely, terrifyingly vulnerable, you give the people around you permission to be human too. But we have confused vulnerability with weakness for so long that we have started wearing our emotional armor as if it is a badge of honor. I don't need anyone, I'm over it. It doesn't affect me, I'm fine. We say these things with such certainty, such practiced steadiness, and meanwhile something inside us is screaming. Here is the painful irony. The more tightly you armor yourself, the more isolated you become. And the more isolated you become, the more your pain compounds. Because pain that has no witness, pain that is swallowed silently and carried alone, does not diminish, it accumulates. It builds up in layers until the weight of it becomes so unbearable that everything eventually collapses at once. And you find yourself falling apart in circumstances that seem completely unrelated to what originally broke you. This is why grief must be witnessed, not fixed, not solved, not explained away with inspirational quotes and silver linings, witnessed. There is something profoundly healing about having another human being sit beside your sorrow, not to rescue you from it, but simply to say with their presence, "You are not alone in this. I see you, I hear you. This pain is real, and you do not have to carry it by yourself in the dark." When we share our stories of struggle, not our polished, already healed, Instagram-filtered stories, but our raw, messy, still bleeding stories, something miraculous happens. We discover that we are not as alone as we thought. We discover that our specific flavor of heartbreak, our particular shade of loss, our unique experience of failure is deeply, uncomfortably, beautifully human. You are not broken beyond repair. You are broken in all the ways that connect you to every other human being who has ever loved something and lost it. Now I want to talk about forgiveness, because this is where most people get stuck. Most people believe that forgiveness is something you offer to someone who deserves it. They are waiting for the person who hurt them to apologize sincerely, to demonstrate understanding, to earn the forgiveness before it is granted. And they are waiting in a prison of their own construction, furious, exhausted, and slowly being consumed by the very resentment they believe is protecting them. Let me be absolutely clear about what forgiveness is and what it is not. Forgiveness is not telling someone that what they did was acceptable. It is not minimizing your pain or pretending the damage was not real. It is not reconciliation. It is not trust rebuilt overnight. It is not weakness or surrender or letting someone off the hook. Forgiveness is freedom. It is the moment you decide, consciously, deliberately, sometimes through gritted teeth and absolute defiance, that you will no longer allow what someone did to you to determine who you become. It is the moment you stop letting their actions live rent-free inside your nervous system. It is the moment you reclaim your own story from the person who tried to write your ending. You do not forgive because they deserve peace. You forgive because you deserve peace. Because bitterness is a slow poison, and you have been drinking it for too long, hoping it will somehow harm the person who poured it. And here is what I need you to understand about your story, the part of your story that includes the loss, the betrayal, the failure, the grief, the absolute devastation that knocked you to your knees and made you question everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. That is not the end of your story. That is not even close to the end. The most profound transformations I have ever seen did not happen to people who lived charmed lives free of suffering. They happened to people who walked straight into the fire of their worst experiences, who let it burn away everything that was not authentically them and came out the other side refined, changed, deeper, more compassionate, more courageous, more real. Your breaking point was not the period at the end of your story. It was the moment the old version of you, the version that was too small for the life you were meant to live, finally gave way to something larger, truer, and infinitely more powerful. Every scar you carry is a map of your survival. Every wound that healed is evidence that you are stronger than what tried to destroy you. And this is critically important, healing does not happen by simply waiting for time to pass. Time is not the healer. Time is just the container. What you pour into that time, the reflection, the meaning-making, the honest examination of what happened and why and what it is asking you to become, that is what heals. When you are able to look at your greatest pain and ask, what is this teaching me? Who is this calling me to be? How can I use this to create something meaningful? You transform your suffering from something that happened to you into something that happened for you. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending everything happens for a reason in some tidy, comfortable way. This is the sacred, difficult, deeply human work of meaning-making. It is how survivors become leaders. It is how the broken become the most powerfully compassionate people in every room they enter. It is how your darkest experience becomes the very thing that helps someone else find their way back to the light. So here is what I want to leave you with today. Let it hurt, completely, fully, without apology or performance. Sit with your grief. Let your tears fall without rushing them toward the drain. Let your body feel what your mind has been trying to protect you from. Pain honored becomes pain released. Let it heal, not alone, but in the company of people brave enough to witness your struggle without flinching. Be vulnerable enough to say, I am not okay to someone who deserves to hear the truth. Let meaning slowly emerge from the wreckage. Let the questions guide you deeper rather than shutting them down with distractions. And then, when you have truly felt it and truly begun to process it, let it go. Not because forgetting is possible, not because what happened wasn't real or devastating or deeply unfair. Let it go, because you are not the sum of what broke you. You are the sum of what you chose to do after the breaking. Let it go, because carrying it indefinitely does not honor your pain. It imprisons you in it. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to move on. You are allowed to laugh again without guilt, to love again without terror, to build again without constantly waiting for everything to collapse. Moving on is not betrayal. Moving on is not forgetting. Moving on is not pretending it didn't matter. Moving on is the most powerful declaration you will ever make, that your pain did not get the final word, that your story is still being written, that you, broken, healing, imperfect, magnificent you, are still standing. And that is everything. We began today by asking, what if the pain you've been running from is actually your portal to becoming who you were always meant to be? And now, having walked through the full landscape of this conversation together, I believe you already know the answer. Pain is not your punishment. It is your invitation. Vulnerability is not your weakness. It is your greatest courage. Grief that is witnessed becomes grief that is released. Forgiveness is not a gift for those who hurt you. It is a declaration of your own freedom. Your broken chapters are not your ending. They are your most powerful turning points. And time alone does not heal, but time filled with meaning transforms everything. The path forward was never about finding a life free of pain. It was about becoming someone strong enough, honest enough, and brave enough to walk through the pain and come out the other side more fully, more authentically, more gloriously alive. Let it hurt, let it heal, let it go. Exactly this is how you finally move on